You might think you know the story of Adam and Eve, the original humans created by God in the biblical account of Genesis. But have you ever stopped to consider the profound implications of their story? Are they real people, or are they symbolic figures, representing humanity's earliest beginnings and our relationship with the divine? As we explore this age-old question, you'll discover that the answer is not as simple as a yes or no. The story of Adam and Eve has been debated by scholars, theologians, and philosophers for centuries, and its significance extends far beyond the realm of biblical interpretation. It speaks to fundamental questions about the nature of humanity, our place in the world, and the very essence of our existence. As you delve into the complexities of this narrative, you'll encounter a rich tapestry of ideas that challenge your assumptions and invite you to reflect on the deeper meaning of your own life and faith. As we begin our exploration of the biblical narrative of Adam and Eve, it's essential to set the historical context in which this story unfolds. We find ourselves in the ancient Near East, a region that was home to a vast array of cultures, each with their own distinct traditions and mythologies. The biblical account of Adam and Eve is situated within this rich tapestry, drawing upon the cultural and theological influences of the time. In the context of ancient Near Eastern mythology, the creation story in Genesis 2-3 bears striking similarities with other mythological accounts of creation. For instance, the Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh features a flood story that bears remarkable parallels with the biblical account of Noah's flood. Similarly, the Egyptian creation myth, as recorded in the Ennet of Heliopolis, shares striking similarities with the biblical account of creation. These parallels suggest that the biblical account of Adam and Eve was not isolated from the broader cultural and theological context of the ancient Near East. However, the biblical account of Adam and Eve is distinct from its ancient Near Eastern counterparts in several key ways. Unlike the Mesopotamian and Egyptian creation myths, which feature a pantheon of gods and goddesses, the biblical account of creation centers around a single, all-powerful deity. This emphasis on monotheism is a key distinguishing feature of the biblical narrative, and it has far-reaching implications for our understanding of God's relationship with humanity. The biblical account of Adam and Eve also places a strong emphasis on the concept of disobedience and the nature of humanity. The serpent's temptation of Eve, which is recorded in Genesis 3, is a pivotal moment in the narrative, as it marks the first instance of human disobedience. This act of disobedience has far-reaching consequences, as it leads to the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden and introduces sin into the world. You might think that the concept of disobedience is a straightforward one, but it's actually a complex and multifaceted idea that has been debated by theologians and philosophers throughout history. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, for instance, saw disobedience as a fundamental aspect of human nature, arguing that humans are inherently prone to vice and that obedience to authority is a key virtue. In contrast, the 17th century philosopher John Locke saw disobedience as a necessary aspect of human freedom, arguing that individuals have a right to resist oppressive authority. In the context of the biblical narrative, disobedience is not simply a matter of personal choice, but rather a fundamental aspect of the human condition. Adam and Eve's disobedience is not simply a moral failing, but rather a symptom of a deeper problem, a problem that is rooted in the very nature of humanity. This deeper problem is one that has been explored by theologians and philosophers throughout history, and it continues to be a pressing concern for us today. As we explore the biblical narrative of Adam and Eve, we are not simply examining a historical account of the early days of humanity, we are also grappling with fundamental questions about the nature of humanity and our relationship with God. We are faced with the reality of disobedience and the consequences that follow, and we are invited to reflect on the deeper implications of this narrative for our own lives and our understanding of the world. As we delve into the symbolic significance of Adam and Eve, we find ourselves navigating a rich tapestry of interpretations, woven from the threads of biblical narrative, classical theology, and modern perspectives. At the heart of this story lies a profound exploration of humanity's relationship with the divine, the nature of sin, and the role of temptation. In the biblical account, Adam and Eve are depicted as the first humans, created by God in His own image. They inhabit the Garden of Eden, a paradise of abundance and beauty, where they live in harmony with God and with one another. Yet, their innocence is short-lived, as they succumb to the temptation of the serpent, leading to the fall of humanity from a state of grace to one of sin and separation from God. Origen, a 3rd century Christian theologian, interpreted this story as a symbolic representation of the human soul's journey towards spiritual enlightenment. According to Origen, Adam represents the rational, intellectual aspect of human nature, while Eve represents the emotional, sensual aspect. The serpent, embodying the forces of temptation, leads them astray, symbolizing the way in which our base desires can lead us away from our higher, spiritual selves. Augustine, another influential Christian thinker, saw Adam and Eve as representing the universal human condition. He argued that the fall from Eden was not just a historical event, but a metaphor for the fundamental human struggle between good and evil, reason and passion. In this view, Adam and Eve's disobedience serves as a reminder of our own propensity for sin and our need for redemption. Fast forwarding to modern times, feminist interpretations of the Adam and Eve story have challenged traditional patriarchal readings, highlighting the ways in which the narrative has been used to justify the subjugation of women. According to this perspective, Eve is not the temptress, but rather a symbol of feminine power and autonomy, whose actions are unfairly maligned by a male-dominated narrative. This reading underscores the importance of re-examining the story through a feminist lens, acknowledging the agency and dignity of women in the biblical account. Furthermore, postmodern interpretations have problematized the notion of a single, authoritative narrative, instead highlighting the complexity and multiplicity of human experience. In this view, the story of Adam and Eve is not a fixed, objective truth, but rather a fluid, subjective interpretation, shaped by the cultural, social, and historical contexts in which it is read. As we grapple with these diverse perspectives, we are invited to re-examine our own understanding of the Adam and Eve narrative. What does it reveal about our relationship with the divine? How does it shape our understanding of sin and redemption? And what insights can we glean from the serpent's role in the story? In the end, the symbolic significance of Adam and Eve lies not in the historical accuracy of the events, but in the profound truths they convey about the human condition. As we reflect on this narrative, we are reminded of the ongoing struggle between good and evil, reason and passion, and the need for spiritual growth and self-awareness. As we explore the story of Adam and Eve, we find ourselves in the midst of a profound philosophical inquiry into human nature, free will, and moral responsibility. To deepen our understanding of this pivotal biblical account, let's delve into the ideas of Aristotle and Immanuel Kant, two thinkers whose perspectives on human nature and morality continue to shape our modern understanding of these concepts. Aristotle's concept of human nature emphasizes the importance of reason and virtue in shaping our moral character. He believed that humans have a unique capacity for rational thought, which enables us to make choices and act in accordance with our understanding of what is right and just. According to Aristotle, the cultivation of virtues such as courage, justice, and temperance is essential for living a fulfilling and morally upright life. In this sense, human beings are not simply passive recipients of moral instruction, but rather active participants in the process of shaping our own character and moral agency. Now, let's consider how Aristotle's ideas relate to the story of Adam and Eve. The biblical account portrays Adam and Eve as being created in the image of God, with a capacity for reason and moral agency. However, their decision to eat the forbidden fruit is seen as a failure of moral responsibility, as they choose to disobey God's command and prioritize their own desires over obedience to God's will. In this sense, the story of Adam and Eve can be seen as a cautionary tale about the importance of cultivating virtues and exercising moral responsibility in the face of temptation and adversity. But what about the concept of free will? Is Adam and Eve's decision to eat the forbidden fruit a truly free choice, or was it predetermined by some external force? Immanuel Kant, another influential philosopher, grappled with this question in his work on moral philosophy. Kant argued that human beings have a rational capacity for moral agency, but that this capacity is not entirely free from external influences. According to Kant, moral action is guided by a sense of duty and obligation, which is rooted in our rational understanding of what is right and just. In the context of the story of Adam and Eve, Kant's ideas offer a nuanced perspective on the nature of free will. While Adam and Eve's decision to eat the forbidden fruit was undoubtedly a choice, it was also influenced by external factors, such as the serpent's temptation and their own desires. In this sense, their decision can be seen as a complex interplay between free will and external influences, rather than a purely free choice. But what are the implications of these philosophical ideas for our understanding of humanity and our moral obligations? As we reflect on the story of Adam and Eve, we are reminded of the importance of cultivating virtues and exercising moral responsibility in the face of temptation and adversity. We are also reminded that human beings have a unique capacity for rational thought and moral agency, which enables us to make choices and act in accordance with our understanding of what is right and just. In conclusion, the story of Adam and Eve offers a profound exploration of human nature, free will, and moral responsibility. By engaging with the ideas of Aristotle and Immanuel Kant, we can deepen our understanding of these concepts and gain a richer appreciation for the complexities of human experience. As we navigate the challenges of our own lives, may we strive to cultivate virtues, exercise moral responsibility, and live in accordance with our rational understanding of what is right and just. As we delve into the biblical account of Adam and Eve, it's essential to recognize the rich cultural and historical contexts that shaped this foundational story. One of the most significant influences on the biblical narrative is the ancient Mesopotamian mythology of the goddess Ishtar and the god Tammuz. In this mythology, Ishtar, the goddess of love and fertility, descends into the underworld to rescue her lover Tammuz, only to be reborn and rise again. This mythological cycle of descent and rebirth has striking parallels with the story of Adam and Eve's expulsion from the Garden of Eden. You might think that this is simply a curious coincidence, but it speaks to a deeper cultural exchange between the ancient Near Eastern cultures. The biblical account of Adam and Eve's disobedience and expulsion from the garden has been interpreted through the lens of this Mesopotamian mythology, where the serpent represents a symbol of chaos and disorder. In this context, the serpent's temptation of Eve can be seen as a manifestation of the forces of chaos that threaten the order of creation. However, the biblical account also draws on Greek mythology, particularly in the figure of the serpent as a symbol of wisdom and knowledge. In the Greek myth of the snake Ophidian, the serpent is depicted as a wise and benevolent creature that teaches humanity the secrets of the universe. In contrast, the biblical serpent is often seen as a symbol of deception and temptation. This dichotomy highlights the complex and multifaceted nature of the serpent in biblical theology, representing both the forces of chaos and the pursuit of knowledge. The cultural and historical contexts that shape the biblical account of Adam and Eve have had a profound impact on its interpretation throughout history. In ancient Jewish tradition, the story of Adam and Eve was seen as a cautionary tale about the dangers of disobedience and the importance of following God's commands. In early Christian theology, the story was often interpreted as a symbol of the fall of humanity and the need for redemption through Jesus Christ. However, modern interpretations of the story have led to a more nuanced understanding of the biblical account. Some have seen the story as a critique of patriarchal society, where Eve's disobedience is not a failure, but rather a necessary step towards human evolution and growth. Others have interpreted the story as a representation of the human condition, where the choices we make have consequences that shape our lives and the world around us. In this sense, the story of Adam and Eve remains a powerful allegory for the human experience, offering insights into the nature of faith, virtue, and strength. As we grapple with the complexities of this ancient story, we are forced to confront our own assumptions and biases, and to consider the deeper implications of our choices. Ultimately, The story of Adam and Eve serves as a reminder that our understanding of ourselves and the world around us is always incomplete, and that the pursuit of knowledge and wisdom is a lifelong journey. The story of Adam and Eve is a foundational narrative in many faith traditions, particularly Christianity. At its core, it is a tale of sin, redemption, and the human condition. But what does it mean to sin, and how does it relate to our understanding of humanity and our relationship with the divine? Classical interpretations of the story often emphasize the idea of original sin, the notion that Adam's disobedience in the Garden of Eden led to a corrupting influence that has been passed down to all humanity. This view posits that sin is an inherent part of human nature, a fundamental flaw that must be acknowledged and reckoned with. Theologians like St. Augustine and Thomas Aquinas built upon this idea, arguing that sin is a fundamental aspect of human existence, a result of humanity's fallen state. However, this perspective has been challenged by more contemporary interpretations. Some argue that the story of Adam and Eve is not meant to be taken literally, but rather as a metaphor for the human condition. This view suggests that the narrative is a powerful exploration of the complexities of human nature, highlighting the tensions between free will and determinism, between obedience and disobedience. Philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Martin Heidegger have grappled with the implications of human freedom and responsibility. Sartre, in particular, argued that human beings are condemned to be free, meaning that we are responsible for our choices and actions. This perspective has significant implications for our understanding of sin, suggesting that it is not something that is inherent to human nature, but rather a result of our choices and actions. The story of Adam and Eve can also be seen as a reflection of the human struggle with power and temptation. The serpent's promise to Eve, "You will be like God," speaks to the deep-seated desire for autonomy and self-determination that is a fundamental aspect of human nature. This desire can lead us down a path of selfishness and disobedience, but it can also be a catalyst for growth and transformation. Historical parallels can be drawn between the story of Adam and Eve and the ancient Greek myth of the fall of the Titans. In both narratives, a rebellion against authority leads to chaos and destruction. However, while the Titans were punished for their actions, Adam and Eve are given a second chance, an opportunity for redemption and restoration. Scientific insights can also shed light on the human condition. Research in neuroscience and psychology has shown that the human brain is wired for social connection and cooperation. Our brains are capable of empathy and compassion, and we are driven by a desire for meaning and purpose. These findings highlight the importance of community and relationships in our lives, and suggest that our actions are not solely driven by self-interest, but by a desire for connection and belonging. Ultimately, the story of Adam and Eve is a complex and multifaceted narrative that continues to challenge and inspire us today. It is a reminder of the human condition, with all its flaws and weaknesses, and a testament to the power of redemption and transformation. As we grapple with the implications of this story, we are forced to confront our own sin and our own capacity for growth and change. We are reminded that we are not alone in our struggles, but are part of a larger community of human beings who are all striving to find their way in the world. As we conclude our exploration of the enigmatic figures of Adam and Eve, we're left with more questions than answers. Were they historical individuals, mythical archetypes, or a blend of both? Perhaps the truth lies not in the specifics, but in the symbolism they represent. The story of Adam and Eve has captivated humanity for centuries, speaking to our deepest desires, fears, and longings. As we ponder their story, we're reminded that the choice between good and evil is a fundamental aspect of the human experience. The Garden of Eden, a paradise of innocence and bliss, represents the potential for perfection and harmony that lies within us all. Yet, the forbidden fruit, a symbol of knowledge and temptation, represents the very real temptation that threatens to disrupt our relationship with the divine. As you reflect on the story of Adam and Eve, consider the choices you've made in your own life. Have you chosen to follow the path of obedience and trust, or have you strayed from the garden of innocence? The good news is that it's never too late to return to the garden, to rediscover the beauty and wonder of a life lived in harmony with God. And so, as we close this episode, we're left with a profound question. Will you choose to follow the ancient path of Adam and Eve, or will you forge a new way, one that's rooted in faith, love, and obedience to the divine? May the story of Adam and Eve inspire you to seek a deeper relationship with the one who created you, and may you find the courage to choose the path that leads to true life and freedom. May you be blessed to walk in the Garden of Eden within you, and may you forever be guided by the love and wisdom of the divine. If this reflection has touched your heart and helped you see the truth more deeply, we would be grateful if you supported this video with a like. It's a simple gesture, but it helps spread God's word and share encouragement with others. May these reflections inspire you, for from the fruit of their lips people are filled with good things, and the work of their hands brings them reward. Meditating on the truth is the path to wisdom, for the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. Subscribe to dive deeper into God's Word with us, to discover its depth, and to apply spiritual truths in everyday life. May your soul grow strong, like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season and whose leaf does not wither. May the Lord bless you and fill your spirit with peace and joy. May His light guide you, and may His truth strengthen you on your journey of faith. Amen.